1 day ago, 24 hours ago, minus 5 minutes, was the cut down deadline when the Panthers and every other NFL team had to be down to 53 players. Who they cut was interesting. Who they kept was interesting. Then over the next 24 hours, so from that cut down time till noon today, the Panthers had to decide who they were going to claim out of everyone put on waivers around the NFL. They picked 6 players. Then they had to cut 6 more to make room for those 6 players. Who they chose to keep was interesting. Who they chose to waive was interesting. I said this earlier, the theme of the day is actions speak louder than words. What that meant was, doesn't matter if somebody praised you in a post-game press conference. It doesn't even matter if in the middle of the second preseason game, right after the coaches told you, that's great, take your pads off, you're not playing in the second half, we're going to play the end of the benchers in the second half, that's not you. And then Dave Canales let you put his arm around him and you were joking on the sideline in that second half. Even if that happened, you might be cut. Because that's exactly what happened to Terrace Marshall Jr. Actions speak louder than words. So what did the rest of the NFL tell the Panthers? The rest of the NFL told the Panthers, your roster is in trouble. What I mean by that is the Panthers had to cut their, 90 minus 53. What's that, 37? Cut their 37 guys, about 24 of which went on waivers. How many of them do you think were claimed by other teams in the league? None. Right? If the Panthers had such a great wide receiving core, they cut their 8th best wide receiver. Terrace Marshall went unclaimed. If Jordan Matthews had such a good camp, he became such a critical special teams player, he showed that he can make it in this league as a tight end, he went unclaimed. They cut defensive players, secondary players. They cut just about everybody. They cut a quarterback. None of them were claimed. That is the NFL telling the Panthers, yeah, we don't have any need for the end of your roster. But the other thing that I think their action said, and the Panthers' action said, is exactly what Dave Canales has been saying. Right? Actions speak louder than words, but when actions back up words, it builds credibility, it builds trust, and it shows that you're serious about something. The Panthers kept 10 offensive linemen on their 53-man roster as of cut downs yesterday at 4. They claimed another offensive lineman. They did cut one, so they're still at 10. But 10 of the 53 people on their 53-man roster are offensive linemen. You mix in that they had 7 defensive linemen originally, had to cut one off waiver, or once they made waiver claims, but 6 defensive linemen still. And that's not including Jadeveon, Clowney, or K'Lavon Chaisson, or some of these outside linebackers that might be playing on the line, edge rushing quite a bit. They had 7 and eventually 6. I'm not saying how it's going to end up. I'm not saying the plan for the Panthers is going to work. But I am saying their actions are backing up what they want to be as a football team. They want to win in the trenches. They want to run the ball. They want to stop the run. Right? I'm not saying they're going to go into week 1 even with 10 offensive linemen. I'm saying they wanted to be really careful and make sure they get it right with the offensive linemen they do keep because they want to win in the trenches. I'm not sure that they had a obvious plan for the 7 and then cutting one to be 6 defensive linemen, but I am saying they could have kept another tight end. They could have kept another running back. They could have kept another safety. They could have kept so many of these guys, and instead they spent 17 of their 53 at the cut down date on offensive and defensive linemen, pretty much interior defensive linemen. This team's going to run the football. Dave Canales believes in controlling the game in the trenches. I'm not saying if it's going to work out or not, but I am saying there's a whole bunch of 60-year-old retired high school football coaches somewhere out there going, punch him in the mouth, pound the rock. I like this Panther team.
Run a T-wing offense.
Yeah, now we're talking Delaware wing T. Let's get the 2 A-backs out there. Misdirection. We're undersized up front. We got to punch them in the mouth. I've had too many of those coaches in my career. I could keep going. Be the hammer, not the nail, son. Used to get that one all the time in high school. I'm like, I am a quarterback. I am not getting hit. Stupid story, but I'll tell it real quick. I transferred between my sophomore and junior year of high school. Showed up, obviously wanting and expecting to be the starting quarterback. And the guy who I replaced, he was a returning starter. He was my grade, so he started as a sophomore, and I took his job. One of my best friends in high school. He ended up being our starting fullback and middle linebacker. Big dude. Maybe not the best quarterback, but really good football player. Our coach used to have us go up against each other in all these hitting drills. At the time, I'm probably 6'3", 160 pounds, going up against what would eventually become our starting fullback and middle linebacker. And he's like, let's see who wants the quarterback spot more. I'm going like, I want it real bad, but I
want to be able to play. I don't want to get injured.
But
and
I'm giving up 60 pounds here. What do you thought the want to is going to make up for this? I'm just going to get planted. We do all the Oklahoma drills and gauntlet drills, stuff that's not even allowed anymore. They don't let you do that in high school football. And I would just get rocked, and then I'd stand up and be like, all right, can we go play 7-on-7? Let me show you what I can do. He's obviously winning this little mini game we have going on over here. That kind of is what I think Dave Canales is going to be. He's a modern version of it, right? He wears dry fit, tight clothes. He works out a bunch. He gels his hair, and then he sounds just like my old school coach from high school that's like, we're going to run the football, boys. You want another fun story about that coach? This will take another minute, but it's, I think, a classic high school football story. Our coach was big on the pregame speech, right? Everybody would get in the hallway outside our locker room, and we'd sit on the sides, and he would walk up and down the hallway giving a speech. Think kind of Bud Kilmer, John Voight from Varsity Blues, like very taking it way too seriously. And he walked up, and our school was in a town called Berlin, Maryland, which was kind of in the streets referred to as Bucktown, okay? So at the end, he gives us a 10-minute, we're going to tear their heads off, we're going to be the more physical team, blah, 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 blah. And he wants to end it with, let's go out there and give them a good old-fashioned Bucktown butt kicking. And then that's going to be the charge, and we're all going to burst out the doors and run. The problem is his brain didn't say a good old Bucktown butt kicking. It said a good old Bucktown butt kissing.
Okay. That's not where I thought that was going for a second, but that's much better.
He said, all right, everybody, let's make sure we go out, give them a good old-fashioned Bucktown butt kissing. And we all went, yeah, huh? I don't, coach, I don't. And he just, let's go. And he goes run out. It was the most confused, like, running out of the tunnel I've ever had. Everybody was like, coach, I don't know if we want. All right, I guess. Here we go, boys. And we just jogged out like no emotion. It was just a quintessential high school football story.